Hi folks, welcome to the Mike Lopez TV Show. I'm your host, ACMike. We'll bring you all things Atlantic City, politics, sports, dining, entertainment, and so much more. Our first guest for tonight is Dr. Harvey Kesselman, president of Stockton University. Next up, we'll have James Sarkos, chief of police for the Atlantic City Police Department. So stick around, we'll be right back. Welcome back to the show. Our first guest is Dr. Harvey Kesselman, president of Stockton University. Dr. Kesselman, welcome to the show.
Always a pleasure to be with AC Mike. Good to see you, my friend.
Wow, listen, we got so much to talk about with so little time. So, first of all, again, thank you for coming out, Dr. Kesselman. We really appreciate the time, and we've done this quite a few times, whether it be on the radio show or here at Stockton University with the Mike Lopez Show with your host, AC Mike. Listen, first, I know you know, and a lot of the folks and our viewers know a little bit about you. Tell us a little bit about, in a Reader's Digest version,
okay,
right?
Reader's Digest.
If anybody knows what that is anymore.
Right, it's something you used to read. Okay, so I've been with Stockton since the founding. I was in the very first class as a student. And over the course of 50 years, went from being a student to a tutor to the director of the EOF program, and just multiple jobs. I was the vice president of administration and finance, student affairs. I was the provost, executive vice president, dean of the School of Education, and then finally the president. And I've been the president for the last 8 years, and it's been the most fulfilling job of my entire career.
And it's been a quick 8 years. So, Dr. Kesselman, coming out here as a student, and not out here, we're kind of an Atlantic City-based show, but Atlantic City is wide-ranging. Tell us about that, out there in AC when the first year.
Well, the first year, we weren't expecting to be in AC. We were expecting to be in Galloway. But what happened was there was a delay in the construction, which tends to happen. And as a result, we got a letter sometime in August that said, oh, by the way, you're going to be starting your college career in Atlantic City. And we said, in Atlantic City? Where in Atlantic? This is pre-casino Atlantic City. So we said, where in Atlantic City? And they said it was in the Mayflower Hotel. And the Mayflower Hotel was at St. James in Tennessee, on the boardwalk at St. James in Tennessee. But it was almost in a condemned state. So here we were, living, taking courses, being with our faculty, staff, eating, having entertainment, all in a hotel. And when you look back at that, and it was only 12 weeks, and yet those of us who were there are called Mayflower, either faculty or Mayflower students. I'm the last of the Mayflower students at Stockton. Stu Farrell was the last of the Mayflower faculty and the coastal research person, and he's retiring this year too. So the last of the Mayflower is leaving Stockton. But what was interesting is that when you eat together, when you play together, when you have classes together, think of like when you're in a conference. You're there 2 or 3 days, but the people you meet, you form a bond. You just do. Imagine the entire first semester of a college founding, everybody living in a hotel, being in a hotel, and the kind of sense of community that was formed that we then brought over to Galloway. And now, of course, we're back in Atlantic City, and it's I call it bookends. It's like I began my career in Atlantic City, and of course, when I retire, my office will be in Atlantic City. I'll be president emeritus and a tenured faculty member, which I have been. I continue to be that, and I hope to teach a little bit before I, walk the boards with you every morning.
You know what? I look forward to that, having a cup of coffee, and whoever the next president is would be very smart to do that. Make sure you do. So you spoke a little bit of that, and we're going to touch on that, though. But when you talk about that bond, that Stockton bond, and for one reason or another, it's not meant to be. A lot of our guests in the last 3 years here, and whether it be here or on the radio show, a lot of Stockton University, and I see that bond. Talk about that a little bit, because we do this show as we do it today with some faculty and some students, and what that beautiful relationship it is with staff and
Part of that's in our DNA, and again, it began there. And we always have felt a sense of community because, the fact that there are founding people still here. I mean, remember, it was exciting. It was the early end of the '60s. Think of it, early '70s. It was everybody that was that kind of bond of that generation, and that came and it was experimental and vibrant and alive, and that came here. And this. Even the Galloway, and I say here, we're in Galloway tonight, but the Galloway campus, for those who don't know, no building is taller than the highest tree. And and why was that? To blend into the environment. And one of the things that almost every Stockton student is committed to is the environment. I mean, and you can tell. There's never graffiti, that's not part of Stockton's DNA. And being in first the woods and then also being by the ocean. So we're the only institutions in the Pinelands National Reserve, 1,600 acres. We have bayfront property in Port Republic area with the Coastal Research Center and things like that, and oceanfront property now in Atlantic City. That is called blending in the environment, and being part of that environment is who we are, and that crosses the fact that there is a sense of community amongst us all.
And as you speak it, I smile because it's thought out, but it is the real deal. I mean, you're not making a sales pitch, or it's not an ad. It's where you're at. Beautiful campus out here. This is incredible.
Gorgeous.
The Galloway campus, and what you're doing on the boardwalk is...
It's incredible. Simple. It's equally incredible, but different. But if you look at the design, and we've always been architecturally connected in anything we've done, everywhere we go, we want the buildings to have that Stockton feel, that you see it. You'll see the signs, and you'll see all of the things that you have. Outsides are a little different, but you will see pieces of all of Stockton in every single building at Stockton. And again, it's not like one building looks like that, one building looks like that. That's why it was so critical that we built in Atlantic City, because we could have never made an existing building look like Stockton. And part of that connectivity and that community I talk about is that we also know that the buildings match, the environment matches, and this all by design. This wasn't random. This didn't happen randomly.
It's beautiful. Just to tell some of our viewers real quick, Dr. Kesselman and I did a radio show interview a few years back, and at the end of it, Dr. Kesselman says, "Hey, Mike, anything you need, you want to do a remote back out here, this, that, whatever." I was like, "Okay, that sounds good." Oh, by the way, Dr. Kesselman, can I do a TV show? So I had to tell that, and then 3 months later, I started getting calls from Dean Honecker, and so.
Well, that's on my way out. That's an interesting ask. Most people don't come in and say, "Can I do a TV show?" But you know what? It worked out perfectly. And you're right, it worked out, and I couldn't be happy to have you connected. It's so funny because, we connected Atlantic City. We have the show in Galloway. We do the radio in Atlantic City. You're a perfect illustration of the Stockton family, that you're connected to both campuses. And remember, we have a nice little, satellite in Hamilton, one in Manahawkin, and one down in Cape May and Woodbine. So we've got a pretty substantial footprint in Southeast New Jersey, a very substantial footprint.
And reason I mentioned that, I just want to say thank you again publicly. I appreciate you. So listen, we only got about 2 minutes left,
okay,
which is nothing for us, about 10 seconds. You're not a lame duck president.
No, make no
Talk to us about
that.
what you're going to be doing and what's going on. And we're going to continue this interview on radio one of these days in the future.
That's great. I mean, I have December 1st, I have 7 months left as the president, okay? And I do have designs. I mean, one of the things I'd love to do is that empty lot block. It's called Block 21 between the, for those who know, on the beach side of the Knife and Fork. It's that city block. I'd love to we won't have it built by any stretch of the imagination, but we will have a concept document of what that should look like. The dorms, the new residence halls, about half a block down on Providence, right there at the corner of Providence and Atlantic. That will be done in May, so I'll be able to there for the ribbon cutting of that. We're also going to begin a couple of projects here, the expansion of the Big Blue, which is really a nice project. We have a little surprise for people on Pomona Road too. So we have a number of projects. I'm going full board to the very last day. I mean, that's the way I've worked my entire life. I should, here at Stockton, that's the way I'm going to end. I'm not stopping. I told the cabinet, my foot's on the gas pedal all the way through, so get ready for the ride, and they've been great. I'm excited. I think we're in a very hot and very popular, not just in New Jersey. We now have a national reputation, and that's important because we're going to draw a tremendous applicant pool. We know, for the next president. So I know it's going to be a successful search. And listen, I want nothing better than to get somebody who will take what I've done and bring it to the next level, which is what my promise was when I took it. My job is to make that degree more valuable each and every day. I think I've kept that promise, and I hope my successor does the same.
Well, you know what? You've done a wonderful job here at Stockton University all through your tenure here, whether it be president, student, teacher, professor. I'm honored to have you as a friend and call and laugh with you and be silly. Listen, we'll continue this, and I can't wait to talk to you some more, Dr. Kesselman. And please tell the missus thank you and hello.
Absolutely, I will do that. Good to see you, my friend.
Folks, you stay right where you're at. We'll be right back. Welcome back to the show. Our next guest is Chief Sarkos, Chief of Police for the Atlantic City Police Department. Chief Sarkos, welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks, Mike. Thank you for having me.
You know what? So glad you're here. Listen, so much to talk about, so little time. Before we get into the nuts and bolts of Atlantic City and what it's like to be the Chief of Police or an officer in law enforcement, tell us a little bit about yourself, James. Where did you start, coming up, your love for law enforcement, and you have a very unique family of different trades and whatnot, so all yours.
Sure. So, I first decided I want to be a police officer from my experience as being an EMT for the Linwood Rescue Squad. And I started doing that when I was 16 years old. My brother had done it before me and kind of showed me the way that it was something pretty neat to experience. So I became an EMT at 16 and volunteered for the rescue squad. And when I did that, I got exposure to public safety and to the Linwood police officers. And I kind of started thinking about a career in law enforcement. I really liked the feeling of self-satisfaction you got by helping people in need. And, it was cool doing it the EMS route, but I thought law enforcement would be a little bit more exciting for me. So I think that's when I really decided I wanted to be a police officer. So after high school, I became what's known as a Class 1 Special Law Enforcement Officer for the Ventnor Police Department. You work on the boardwalk, you enforce local ordinance violations or Title 39, which is motor vehicle violations. You go to the police academy for 2 weeks, you don't have a gun, you have a nightstick and pepper spray. But it's a good introduction into the field of law enforcement. And I was doing that while I was attending Atlantic Cape Community College, where I was getting my degree in criminal justice. Of course, back then it was just Atlantic Community College. But, went to ACC for a couple years, did 1 year in Ventnor as a Class 1. And then my second summer, I worked in Wildwood as a Class 2 officer. I went to the Cape May County Police Academy, and Class 2 is pretty interesting. You have all the powers as a full-time police officer. You have a gun, you have full arrest powers while you're working, but you have no powers when you're off duty. Unlike a full-time officer who has your powers 24/7, you can make arrest off duty, you can carry a weapon off duty. Class 2 only has those powers while they're working. But again, it's a really good way to get your feet wet and get into the field of law enforcement. So I did that for 4 summers in Wildwood. I did that in the summers 96, 7, 8, and 9. And during that time frame, I'd finished my degree from Atlantic Cape Community College, and then I went on to Stockton University where I got my bachelor's degree in criminal justice. After 99, I was hired by the Linwood Police Department. And I worked a year for Linwood before I got picked up in Atlantic City, and I came over to Atlantic City in October 2000.
And here we are today, the Chief. So, we are here at Stockton University, and I'm going to shift gears a little bit, but not really. Would you recommend still Class 1s? I don't know if they still have Class A's, was it? Or
Class 1, yeah.
Class 1s or Class 2s for some of the students that are studying, criminal justice and whatnot.
Yeah, absolutely would recommend it. So with the Atlantic City Police Department, when I was a special officer, Atlantic City didn't have specials. All they had was full-time officers. A lot of the short towns like Wildwood, Cape May, Stone Harbor, CI, or Ocean City, they had special law enforcement officers. We started doing Atlantic City about 10 years ago. We used to be a much bigger police department, and we had to downsize because of financial issues, but we started hiring Class 2 officers to kind of supplement that void that we needed to fill. So we have a whole contingent of Class 2 officers, and it is a great way to get experience and learn about law enforcement. And if anyone is interested in applying to be a Class 2 officer, all you got to do is go to the city's website, which is www.acnj.gov. Go to careers, you'll see special law enforcement officers and put in an application. And the other thing that's really cool about being a special law enforcement officer and being a college student is you can get college credit for the police academy. If you go to Atlantic Cape Community College, they'll give you 12 college credits. And if you go to Stockton, you can do an independent study. Right. If you go to Stockton University, you can do an independent study and you get 4 college credits. So it's a way for you to get experience, earn money, and get college credits.
I mean, so make sure you're listening out there, young men and women. It's a great way to get yourself started and to transition into Atlantic City. I mean, at any one time, I mean, you talked about it a little bit a minute or so ago. You know, you were probably at 440 maybe 10 years ago. 440 meaning men and women working for the police department.
432 was our peak.
Was it 432?
In 1992.
And today we are?
Today we're at 268.
So, and at any given time, Chief, especially summer months, spring, how many people could be in Atlantic City?
And hundreds of thousands.
Hundreds of thousands.
Yeah, hundreds
correct.
of thousands. You know, we see around 27 million visitors a year.
Right.
So if you look at our adjusted population, where you factor in visitors, residents, commuters, I mean, everyone who the police department has to police, it's a couple 100,000 people.
Yeah, so, I mean, we have a population between 37 and maybe 39,000, but that's what a lot of folks don't understand. They say, you know, well, you had 432, and now you can do it, you should be able to do it. This is only 30. No, there's not only 39. On any given day, there could be 150,000 people in that city, whether it's an air show or a normal weekend on a holiday or summertime. How do the men and women, you know, you're talking a couple hundred, reduction of force. How do you do it? I mean, it sounds silly me to ask that, but
Yeah.
the men and women are working super hard.
Yeah, so one, I got to give credit to the men and women of the Atlantic City Police Department. I mean, they're an extraordinary group of individuals who roll up their sleeves every day and just come to get to work and want to help individuals and help those who are in need. And the reason why we're successful is because of them, because of their dedication and determination. And what I find is that officers of the Atlantic City Police Department are passionate about Atlantic City, and failure is not an option for them. So they're going to do everything they can to get the job done. But we've done a lot of things over the years that acts as force multipliers, such as technology. We've done a lot of technology upgrades in the police department, and we have a lot of partnerships with local, county, state, and federal agencies who also act as a force multiplier for us.
So, and we're going to talk a little bit more about that on the second part of this interview. So the men and women, they come in, they're working, they're out there seeing this mass of people at times. Is there any intimidation like that? I mean, I understand public safety myself, retired corrections, and I know when we used to do, you know, walking into a prison cell or whatnot, it gets a little tough though. But the men and women around me, I don't want to say on back of me, side by side, teamwork, and that's what it's all about.
Sure. So, you know, this job, being a law enforcement officer, is very exciting, and you don't know what's going to happen from one moment to the next. And I think that's what, to me, what makes it a very enjoyable job is I don't know what one day is going to bring compared to the next day. I'm not doing the same thing every day. I can truly say that no 2 days are ever the same in law enforcement. But it is challenging and it is exciting. But I think what makes us strong is the bond that we have with our fellow law enforcement officers. So I know that every member of the Atlantic City Police Department is going to back me up and have my back. And if something were to go down, I think I have the best police department in the world backing me up.
And there's no question you do. I mean, it's world-renowned people from all over the world. As you just stated a few minutes ago, 27 million a year come to this city. We love it, and we love what you do. So, Chief, stay right where you're at. Stay tuned, everyone. We'll be right back, continuing our discussion with Chief James Sarkos right after this break. Welcome back to the show. Let's pick up where we left off with James Sarkos, Chief of Police for the Atlantic City Police Department. Chief, so we're talking a little bit about in the early part of the first segment about your education. Tell us a little bit about your master's, from Seton Hall University.
Yeah, so while I was an Atlantic City police officer, I decided I want to go back to school. And, you know, my parents had stressed the importance of education and always being a student of your profession. So I did the New Jersey State Police Graduate Studies program through Seton Hall University, and I got a master's degree in Human Resources Training and Development.
That's awesome. Gosh. Again, so you continued that education. And when you spoke a little bit about Atlantic City and what you do, some of the initiatives, some of the partnerships that you have with whether it's the prosecutor's office of Atlantic County, your municipals around the city and whatnot, neighboring, and with the state. Tell us a little bit about that, how it's working out.
Yeah, so we kind of pride ourselves with having great relationship with all of our partners at the local, county, state, and federal level. So we have coordinations that's going on a daily basis with the FBI, with the DEA, with the New Jersey State Police, with the Atlantic County Prosecutor's Office, with the Atlantic County Sheriff's Department. As you know, Sheriff Scheffler used to be an Atlantic City police officer. So I feel we have a very good working relationship with all those agencies. And it's because what we talked about earlier with Atlantic City seeing all those millions of visitors a year and the potential of terrorism, it's crucial that we have those relationships, those working relationships. And the collaboration, I think, is at an all-time high, and we're going to continue to do that into the future.
And let's face it, folks, when you have crowds like we have and when you have just visitors like we have, the bad guy tends to show up sometimes, so to speak. Sure. So you have to be on point. I'd love to talk about some of the projects you have, whether it's TIP 411. I don't know if project's the right word, but some of those neat ways for folks to give information to the police department without having to identify themselves, and those who want to identify themselves.
So TIP 411 has been a really great application for us, and anyone who wants to communicate with the police department but remain anonymous has the option of doing that through the TIP 411 system. So if you go to your text message and you send a text to TIP 411 and you start the text out with ACPD, it'll come to us. Or another way you can do it that's kind of easier is you just download the ACPD TIP 411 app. Go to the App Store, just search Atlantic City Police TIP 411. It'll come right up, download the app. And I have no way of knowing who you are. You'll come up the system as some random number. And nice thing about it is I can have a two-way conversation with you. So you text me, I text you back, you can send me video. So we monitor that 24/7. Now I must stress that it is not for emergency situations. If you're in an emergency, call 911. Because we're always going to answer 911 first. But if you want to talk to us and you want to be anonymous, you can do that safely through this service. And like I said, I have no way of knowing who you are, 100% anonymous. But we monitor that 24/7. We monitor it in our communication center and also in our dispatch center. And then several of our detectives have access to it. So if someone gives us information, we're going to try to respond back to you as soon as possible. And we've made many arrests off of doing this. We've solved cold cases off of doing this. I mean, it's a really great application that we have.
So, Chief, I can attest to that personally. I'll put myself out there. I know I've used it throughout the last few years, and I stick around and see what happened, and you guys and gals were out there, and it makes us feel safer. And I used it, like I said, not to hide or whatnot. I just wanted to see, hey, here it is right there. There was some illegal going-ons, and you guys came out and did your job, and I could not be more thankful for that for some folks who don't want to reach out like that. So as we're talking about that, though, something struck me in my mind. I know we're going to bounce around a little bit. The ADD kicks in with me a little bit. But your community policing, I mean, it's one of the things I remember a time back years ago, there was a lot of, not just here in Atlantic City, but throughout the country, police brutality, this, that. I have never seen more police community effort by any department, and we have quite a few. Talk to us a little bit about that.
Yeah, we could probably talk for hours about community policing in Atlantic City, but we have the NCO program, which is the neighborhood community officers. There's 15 of them. There's 2 assigned per ward, 6 wards in Atlantic City for 12 of the officers, and then the other 3 are doing homeless outreach. And we actually just got a grant from the Department of Justice COPS program that it's going to allow us to expand and double the NCO program. So we're very shortly be hiring another 15 NCO officers, and they'll be working 16 hours a day instead of 8 hours a day. So really happy about that. But some of the things they do, community barbecues, we'll have a barbecue every summer in one of each of the 6 wards. Holiday season, we give out 300 turkeys for Thanksgiving, give them out in front of the PAL building, also give them out at Busby Village. We do a PAL Thanksgiving Day dinner for the kids at the Police Athletic League. We took the kids from PAL on a trip to Orlando, Florida, to learn about STEM. And that's a really cool thing where they go down there, they meet with the great personnel from Universal Studios, they give the kids a little lesson about how they use science and technology and the arts in creating the rides. They give the kids an opportunity to input in one of the rides, and then they change some of the components of that ride based on their input, and then the kids actually ride the ride to see what they just did and how it changed it. So we try to encourage the kids to look at careers in the future and let them know that these things are attainable for them. And if they stay focused and get an education and stay in school, they can obtain high-paying jobs like that are enjoyable. One of the things I like to say to people, when they're looking for a career, you got to pick something you love. And if you love it, it won't feel like you're working. It'll just feel like you're doing something every day that you're passionate about and care about. And then it's not work. It's just having a good time. So we want to make sure that the kids know that all these options are available to them. Wrestling, we're going to be introducing junior wrestling through the PAL Center. Yeah. That's a partnership we're doing with the Coalition for a Safer Community. I was actually a wrestler in high school. I feel like I benefited greatly from that sport. It's a very dedicated sport. You got to have a lot of commitment to do that sport. And we don't have junior wrestling in Atlantic City, only in the high school level. So this will get the younger kids involved in wrestling. We just got our mats delivered very recently, so that program will be running out very shortly. But we do things like coffee with a cop, cupcake with a cop. We did dancing with a cop. We do the homework completion club with Stockton University, where we meet with the kids in Stanley Holmes Village, help them complete their homework. We'll read to the kids in the kindergarten class. We'll do breakfast with the kids. I just went to the Sovereign Avenue School and had breakfast with all the second graders. Really good event. We'll do canine demonstrations in all the schools for Career Day. We do National Night Out. We do the Junior Police Academy. We do the Citizen Police Academy. It just goes shop with a cop. Yeah. Shop with a Cop is probably one of my favorite events that we do. We'll take around 150 kids to the Walmart in Egg Harbor Township, give each kid a $150 gift card and also a $50 gift card to ShopRite for them to take home with them. Each kid partners with a police officer and they go shopping, and what's really cool about it is you would think the kids are just going to buy for themselves toys, but it's not what they do. They sit there and try to pick out presents for their brothers, their sisters, their parents. Really heartwarming.
It is, and as a proud and so honored to be a board member for the Atlantic City PAL, I've been to a couple of those Shop with the Cops and Coffee with a Cop and whatnot. It's amazing what you're doing in Atlantic City. And listen, we're going to have you back. We got about a minute left. I want to touch on some of the your grandfather. When you were Chief Supreme Court Justice Alito. You got about a minute to talk about that. Tell us what that was like, because when I see him on the screen, what just recently happened with you?
Sure. So I was recently sworn in as the chief of the Atlantic City Police Department. I had been serving in an acting capacity for a little over 2 years, but I had reached out to Supreme Court Justice Sam Alito, who was a New Jersey guy. He actually was born in the Trenton area. So I reached out to Justice Alito and asked him if he would do me the honor of swearing me in. And I thought it was really cool to be sworn in by someone who represents the highest court in the land. Happily, he agreed. He swore me in, and I guess the rest is history. But it was really cool. A lot of people were blown away by it, that a Supreme Court justice would take the time to swear in a chief of police for the Atlantic City Police Department. And he has told me that I'm the only person he's ever done that for. So I feel really blessed and honored that he was able to do that for me.
How about that? That's awesome. When he came up on the screen, I was like, oh, something happened here, some type of glitch or whatnot. It was an awesome event. They did a great job at Jim Whalen Boardwalk Hall and the Adrian Phillips Ballroom. Chief, we so appreciate you coming out. We're going to do this again, hopefully next semester. We're going to have you on the radio show. Thank you so much. This man will keep us safe, and his men and women of the Atlantic City Police Department. Folks, stay right where you're at. We'll be right back. Hey folks, it's our belief here at the Mike Lopez TV Show that you, the viewers, and our guests bring the show to life. Thanks to each and every one of you for joining us. To learn more about AC Mike, go to acmikeNJ.com. On Facebook, AC Mike, Mike Lopez, and LiveWorkPlayAC. You can also find me on Instagram at ACMikeNJ. Remember to live, work, play AC, and I'll see you on the 48.